Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to a brand new project with my man Jeff, also known as J Hoff, over on his channel. How's it going, bro?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Guys, this is the Inside the One podcast. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and today is the day. Just got to jump on it, man. No more hesitating, no more procrastination. We are a little bit behind on free agency, so we got to bust through about 2.5 weeks of stuff. So forgive us for this one being kind of potentially a little bit rushed and jumbled up. It'll be much more organized in the future, but we didn't want to wait any longer. So we are here and we're just going to go over some moves, man. If you guys are enjoying this, make sure you smash the like button. So we need to know how many guys and girls are enjoying this podcast, and subscribe to both channels. His link's going to be in the description down below. We're going to alternate every single week. This goes up every Wednesday. This Wednesday is on my channel, next Wednesday on his, and so on and so forth. So make sure you subscribe to both channels with notifications turned on. And if you're new here from the podcast, let us know in the comment section. So, Jeff, we're just going to jump right into this, my guy.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we're going to start off. We're going to go division by division, kind of run down some of the important signings. The first one we have here is the AFC East. So I'm just going to kick it off right now. I'm going to kick it off with the Jets. Kick it off with the Jets, man. The Jets. Yeah, the Jets. The Jets. Between me and Jeff Shaz, if you guys are new here, we play Madden, we live stream, we do all that stuff. And there was a point in time where my man Jeff was doing a Jets team over there, and he was live streaming, and we had some Jets fans in the chat. And I just feel like, looking at this list of transactions the Jets have made, this is nowhere near what we were told was going to happen with the Jets this offseason. So I find it a little bit fascinating. I don't know if there's any more of a realistic fan base, but the fan base that we were encountering, this offseason is trash. Yeah, this offseason is trash. But to me, this actually isn't too bad. It's just the expectations were set way too high, I think. Like, I look at this, and, you kept your backup running back, and then you signed Keelan Cole and Corey Davis. Those are two decent wide receivers. Corey Davis, he's a deep threat, right? $37 million, not the end of the world. You know what I mean?
He could be a number one. He could be.
Exactly, he could. 984 yards, not terrible. 20th overall, 20th in receptions over 20-plus yards. He's a deep threat. He could be a number one.
But it's no Galladay, because I know I had a lot of guys talking in my channel talking about Deshaun Watson, Kenny Galladay. We're going to sign everybody to this team just because of the new coach. And
Allen Robinson.
All this, Corey Davis is it. So,
yeah, Corey Davis and Keelan Cole. Let's go, Jets. However, I will say they sniped Carl Lawson from the Bengals. The Bengals slipped up. They took too long. They might have lowballed him a little bit, and the Jets swooped right in there. And this is a good pickup. I think Carl Lawson's a stud.
I do like that signing a lot, actually.
Yeah, you look at some of his numbers, and you're kind of like, he only had 5.5 sacks, and you're kind of like.
But that was the lead for the Bengals, though. Exactly. He was the number one guy on pass rush.
Exactly. And you have to look into other things, too. Like, he was first in the entire NFL in quarterback knockdowns and fifth in the entire NFL in quarterback pressures. And, I think there's a stat where he had 44 quarterback pressures, and the entire Bengals roster combined had, 51 or something like that. So he had almost all of them, 90%. So that's how good he is, even if he's by himself with no help.
I just can't believe they couldn't re-sign him. That's the thing that kills me about this whole entire situation. Why give him to the Jets? We're going to get into what they did to replace Carl Lawson, but why wouldn't you keep your number one stud on pass rush? Exactly. That blows my mind.
Exactly. And they didn't it was weird because they didn't seem to be negotiating with him during the pre-tampering period. It was kind of like he was waiting and nobody was talking to him. And then when they finally talked to him, they must have lowballed him because he just dipped immediately. He seemed interested in staying. Yeah. And then just all of a sudden it comes out that he went to the Jets.
I know we have a lot of Bengals fans in our Discords, and they're talking about on Twitter, he was just saying, I want to stay in the Bengals. They're my number one priority, but it didn't end up that way. So something must have happened in that communication somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the Bengals, had to go into panic mode, and we'll talk about that later. But
yeah, the
Jets also take Sheldon Rankins from the Saints, so they have a good little foundation there on the defensive line. Listen, I look at these signings. They kept Marcus May, which was massive on the franchise tag. You cannot let him hit free agency. He's a top 10 safety easily.
Yeah.
Top 5 in passes defended among safeties, top 10 in completion percentage among safeties. So if you're the Jets and you have a lack of talent, you got to keep the talent you do have. So that's a good move by them to franchise him and try to figure out an extension for next year. So I do like that. And bringing in LaMarcus Joyner, he's pretty good as well. But I look at these signings that they've made, and when it comes to the offseason with the quarterback, do you keep Sam Darnold? Do you draft somebody else? Regardless of what they do at quarterback, with these moves they made, I think that there's an improvement. I don't see this team as being 0-16 potential again next season like they were this year. I see improvement, new coaching staff. They're making some progress. We'll have to wait and see if it pays off this season or if it's going to be more of a future thing. But I like what they did. They have some cap space left, $31 million. Go get somebody. I don't know who's available that they can get. I know they're trying to get Richard Sherman, but I don't think he's interested.
It's definitely an improvement. I mean, it's last year they got rid of their top guy, Jamal Adams. Now you're making sure you keep your top guy in Mays. So I'm happy with what they've done for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So.
All right, we'll do the Dolphins next, just because they're interesting to me. They're super interesting to me because they got that draft pick from the Texans. And we all thought, okay, they're probably going to go Jamar Chase, right? It's all going to be about Chase. No, they surprised us by getting Will Fuller, signing him on a 1-year deal versus it's worth $10 million. This guy, he wasn't bad for the Texans. I know we had a little bit of issues with the PED usage, but he had 8 touchdowns, which is 15th in the league, and then he had an average of 16.6 yards per catch. That's 6th in the league. So, I mean, do they still go Jamar Chase here?
He's a great deep. That's exactly right, because he's a great deep threat. So do you need another one? Or do you potentially look at that as like a 1-year rental and you still get Jamar Chase as your full-time future deep threat? Like, who really knows what they're going to go for? But this does open up the possibilities for them in terms of being able to grab an offensive lineman, Penei Sewell potentially, somebody like that. Having Will Fuller for this season gives them, I would still draft Jamar Chase if I'm looking for wide receiver help because Will Fuller's a 1-year thing, but that's just me. But it opens up their options for sure.
And then I like the trade they had. They acquired Isaiah Wilson from the Tennessee Titans, along with a 2022 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2021 7th-round selection. So, I mean, I like the trade. It looks like they're trying to get some help on the offensive line. So they might not go Penei. They might not. And then the other thing that I like is they got Matt Skura from the Ravens, who had a little bit of issues with Lamar Jackson hiking that ball 50 feet over his head and having him run back into his own end zone and getting concussions. We can't have that. I'm glad we got rid of him. If you guys didn't know, I'm a Ravens fan. But, for the Dolphins, it looks like they're trying to solidify that offensive line. And they got McKinney on the linebacker spot. They acquired him from the Texans. So, I mean, it looks like they're trying to do things. I like how they're just improving. I do think I don't know if they're the top guy in the NFC East because I do like the Bills still. I do.
Yeah. And
then I look at probably the Patriots, who have cleaned up in this free agency. So it's just like we're gonna get to that too, but it's just I like the Dolphins. I do like the Dolphins, especially with Justin Coleman.
One thing about the Dolphins, though, like after we set up our list of topics to go over here, they actually cut Isaiah Wilson because he was unwilling. He has something going on mentally where he's unwilling to commit to I don't know what it was, but they cut him. So they don't have that position solidified right now. So that's why people are thinking they might still go with Penei.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I found that weird. They traded for him and then he got there and they were asking him, in your little interview or whatever you do when you get traded, and they were just like, okay, you're out of here. So I don't know what he said or did, but he got cut real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Penei is the move then. I mean, they did get Adam Pankey. He's re-signed, but I guess he's not even important. I don't even, not a big name.
To me, it sounds to me from reading about the Dolphins that they truly believe that Tua Tagovailoa is an excellent pocket quarterback. Everybody kind of looks at him and his ability to be mobile, and they kind of think that he's supposed to be this mobile guy, but they want him sitting in the pocket. And if you want to do that, you got to have the tackles. So if I'm them and Penei Sewell is there, which he will be, I'm going with that one. But you brought up the Patriots, and they are next, and this is going to be about 3.5 hours of conversation.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
But this is absolutely outrageous, man. If you guys follow, if you happen to be off of work on the first day of free agency and you were on your phone following Twitter all day, you would have seen about a 2-hour span of time where every single tweet from Adam Schefter was a new signing by the Patriots. It was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen in my entire life. It came complete. I know they had a lot of cap space, but I just wasn't expecting it to all happen in a 2-hour window. It was like every free agent that signed between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. went to the Patriots.
Bill was busy.
It was outrageous. They kicked it off before the tampering period even started by making sure they re-upped Cam Newton for one season. Um, you know how Twitter gets. Adam Schefter says something like, the New England Patriots have re-signed quarterback Cam Newton for 1 year, $13.6 million. And everybody's like, oh my God, $13.6 million for what? That's not how it works. Okay, kids at home, it doesn't work like that. His deal is $5.1 million guaranteed. That's it. He's making $5 million next season, guaranteed. He has to hit certain expectations and milestones. I don't know what they are, but I would imagine he has to hit a certain yardage, completion percentage, touchdowns, interception ratio, playoff appearances, awards, that kind of stuff. And he can earn $8.5 million more to get up to 13.6. But his salary is 5.1. So relax. It's not an overpay. It's not outrageous. It's Cam Newton for $5 million. We take those, right? He didn't have that great of a season he had his best accuracy season, really, one of the best. But he, as a quarterback overall, he wasn't that great. But also, who was he throwing to? You know what I'm saying? He was 24th in yards, 19th in percentage, 34th, and he only had 8 passing touchdowns.
Well, real quick, when we talk about Cam, this was probably one of his best seasons when it comes to being accurate.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's just maybe they were just trying to groom the offense around him with Damian Harris, and now they're just getting a bunch of tight ends for him. So I still think they're trying to make it his team.
Yeah.
I like how they're keeping Cam. They're giving him a shot.
Exactly, yeah. He only threw 10 picks. You see the 8 touchdowns, and you're kind of well, that's trash. But he also rushed for 13 or 14. I can't remember. I didn't write it down.
Yeah, you got to look at the total touchdowns.
Exactly. Most of his touchdowns were rushing because they didn't have any red zone threat. So the 10 interceptions, you look at that, it's middle of the pack. It's not too bad. There's a lot of quarterbacks that you would absolutely take 10 interceptions from, aka Jameis Winston. So when you look at 10 interceptions, you're thinking that's not too bad.
It's not bad.
And then you look at all the weapons they brought in. I found it a little interesting that they went for Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne as opposed to going for Kenny Galladay, or T.Y. Hilton. Or
Nelson Aguilar has the most drops.
He's a talented kid, but he had 8 touchdown catches last year, but his hands have not proven to be the best. And he was I'm pretty certain last year he was playing on a minimum contract, and now he's making $11 million a year. So yeah. I'm what did you see there exactly?
I like Bourne because he's a young guy that shows potential, but Nelson's been in the league for a little bit now and just continues to drop passes. He's not really the most consistent guy.
It's not like he's going to Tom Brady's Patriots, where he'd probably become the best wide receiver of all time. He's going to play with Cam Newton, which is, where it's kind of up in the air. So I like their tight ends, though.
Love the tight ends.
I like this a lot. Hunter, there's nothing wrong with having 2 tight ends. You can run 2 tight end sets all day. This is the Patriots we're talking about. Okay, they had Gronk. They liked their tight ends over there. And Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith were hands down the 2 best available, and they sniped both of them within a 15-minute time frame.
The thing I like about the tight ends is that they benefit from a run offense. Think about Jonnu Smith, Derrick Henry, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler. So now you're supporting Damian Harris and Cam Newton's run game with these 2 tight ends, which I really do like.
And you're doing that with 2 tight ends that can also catch the ball. It's not guys that are just out there to block.
No,
they
can, not
especially specifically Jonnu Smith. He can get down the field. So, and then they go out and they again to support your point about the run game, man. They go out there and they shore up the offensive line even more. You know what I'm saying? They trade for Trent Brown. They signed David Andrews.
But they lost Joe.
They lost Joe Thuney. They did. They absolutely did. But we all saw that coming anyways, and so did they.
He wanted a lot of money. We'll get to the contract a little bit for him, but...
Absolutely. So they did what they could. You know what I'm saying? They've done their best. They might look at guard in the draft, but I like Trent Brown. I think that's a good pickup. And then you go over to defense, and just these guys... the way this team has maneuvered free agency with all the backloaded contracts to keep their cap space high for this year, to bring in all these guys, is pretty impressive. They're pulling off some really good GMing right now. Whether you think they're being overpaid or not is for another day. A lot of these guys have voidable years. There's a whole lot. NFL contracts are not as simple as just the numbers that you see online. So,
from what I know is that I think the GM and the agent, the agent that the GM was working with, Bill, he was the agent of all of these guys, so it was just like bam, 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 one after the other. Like they already
Yeah.
had that rapport to do this, so that's what made this whole entire process easy for them. They already had a connection between Bill and the agent.
Yep, I did see that as well. And they added, I mean, you talk about a front seven. I mean, they literally added seven front seven players already. If they had there hasn't even been the draft yet. And you know what I'm saying? Like they bring in Davin Godchow, Montrevious Adams, Henry Anderson. They bring in Matt Judon, who's very good. He's guaranteed 32 million for the first 2 years.
He will be
That's
missed.
not that bad. Yeah, like 16 million for 2 years, and then it kind of they can restructure after that. I don't hate that at all. I really don't.
The
You
defense
also
is
have
nice.
Raekwon McMillan. They bring back Kyle Van Noy, right? Like so. I mean, there's just players everywhere. There's talented players everywhere. The question is, can they put it together? Yeah, Jalen Mills, one of the better safeties in the NFL this past season. One of the only bright spots on the Eagles was Jalen
Yeah,
Mills.
it's facts.
So I don't know. I like the pay. Listen, that division is very good. I'm not gonna lie. Besides the Jets, who are trying to catch up, this division right here has three. They have two like surefire almost playoff teams, and then the Patriots are coming up there trying to get in as number three. Um, we're looking at a situation like last year. You had to win 11 games to get in the AFC to the playoffs,
It's gonna be even
and
easier.
even 11 was you could miss, right? So this year, I'm thinking like it might even be worse than that with a 17 game season, an extra game. You might have to win 12 to get in because you're looking at the AFC North. We'll talk about them in a second. They might have four teams competing for a playoff spot. You have the AFC East that might have three. That's already 7 teams. We're not even in the other half of the conference yet. So you might have to win a ton of games. So I don't know if the Patriots are going to get in, but they should easily be more competitive than they were last year. If they're not, this might be the end of Cam Newton, but we'll have to wait and see.
It's a do or die year for Cam. I think
Absolutely.
like Bill's loading him up with the offense. He's like, okay, I got you, the guys. Perform.
Absolutely. They're giving him one more chance. That's why they only signed him for 1 year. They're like, you got one more. They might even draft a quarterback, and maybe not the first round, but maybe a later round just in case. But he's going to be on a tight rope, and if he's struggling and they do draft a quarterback, Bill Belichick's not going to hesitate to put you on the bench. So we'll see what happens.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks to go on the bench, let's talk about the Bills. Mitchell Trubisky.
Mitch,
He is
what
now on the
happened,
Bills. He's on the Bills as a backup, guys. He agreed to a 1 year, 2.5 million contract. What happened? What
Mitch? I was
happened to
surprised by
Mitch?
that. I thought he might get some attention from teams that were desperate for a starter. I really did.
I mean, his stats. I mean, when I look at the stats, I mean, he threw for 2,000 yards. He got 16 touchdowns. He's got a 61.3 QBR. He didn't do too bad in interceptions. He only threw 8. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he
He
could
was a good
start
game.
for somewhere.
He was a good game manager for the Bears the second half of the year.
But I do like Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Goat going to the Bills,
Dude,
signing for a
the
1 year
Bills-
contract.
The Bills wide receiver, Josh, let's just, I mean, come on, bro.
Yeah,
That's unfair.
you got
almost.
Diggs, Sanders,
Josh Allen is lined
Cole.
up to, like, Josh Allen's lined up to potentially walk away with MVP next season if he plays well.
He's got the weapons.
Yes.
And then they got Jacob Hollister from, I believe, the Seahawks for a 1 year deal as well. And then he brought back Darrell Williams. He agreed to a 3 year contract, so he's going to be around for a while. They're trying to keep everybody together, is what I'm trying to see. Like they kept Darrell, they kept Matt Milano, agreed to a 4 year deal. So I mean, it seems like not only they're trying to keep their guys together to run it back, but they're trying to reinforce the wide receiver room because they got rid of John Brown, and now they got Mitch
Absolutely.
Trubisky just in case, just in case,
I like that.
you know.
People laugh at it, but listen, as a Saints fan, you guys gotta stop sleeping on the importance of a backup, man. I'm just saying.
Look at the Eagles. If they didn't have a
Yeah.
backup, they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. A good one. Nick Foles is not just a
Exactly.
scrub. So
Exactly. Well, he is when he's not on the Eagles, but
true. Yeah, the Jags, Bears. I mean, he hasn't been the
Yeah.
same Nick Foles, but hey, it
One
is
thing
what it
about
is.
the Bills, one thing about the Bills that makes me nervous is I still am not in love with their ability to run the football.
Yeah.
I,
I'm
I
not
don't love their
sold.
running back. I don't love their running back room. Their offensive line is fine, but I don't love the backs they have.
I think this
That was a
team
problem last
is
season.
more about the line makes the running back. Because we've had
Yep.
arguments before, like, does the line make the running back? Does the running back make the line? Like, who supports who? What makes the running back great? But I think in this
Hmm.
situation in particular, they're trying to make it to where the offensive line is so good it doesn't matter who's back there.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
think. But
We'll see.
regardless,
You got to run the ball in the playoffs, man. It doesn't matter what anybody tells you. The balance is key. You can throw for 5,000 yards if you want to in the right. Ask Drew Brees. You got to have a run game. You have
especially in
to.
those cold months, those winter cold, can't be
Absolutely.
passing that
You
ball
want to
all the
know?
time.
You want to know how Tom Brady went up to Lambeau and won? Because Leonard Fournette showed up too. It's as simple as that.
Rojo, yeah.
Yeah. So
One more thing I want to point out about the Bills.
go for it.
They're a little bit of a cap problem right now. They're down
Yes.
$2 million. So it's just like, what are they going to do? Are they going to restructure somebody? Is this it? Like, there's no way that they can just. There's no way they can stay with that. I mean, that they're as far as the AFC East goes, from what I know, I'm pretty sure they're the worst team as far as cap. So they got to fix that.
They are. They are the only team over the cap right now, I believe. But like I said before, that's like getting under the cap is not as hard as people make it out to be. Unless you're the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill.
Restructure.
Unless you're the Chiefs and you have players like Tyreek Hill that don't want to do it, but it's fine.
Once I'm signed, I'm signed.
Moving on. Let's head
Uh,
on over to the South, man. And I'm kind of excited about this one because we have a very potentially exciting team coming into 2021, and that's Jacksonville. We all know they're drafting Trevor Lawrence. That's not news to anybody. And they are preparing for that. I mean, I think they've done a great job in free agency so far. Like, I was relatively surprised with some of the moves they're making. Like, I wasn't sure how active they were. They had a ton of cap, but it was like,
they had
how
the
many
money.
how many players are going to want to go there? You know, you're having a rookie quarterback. Well, apparently people believe, okay, because these guys, I mean, they brought in Carlos Hyde to come in and back up. What's his name? Robinson.
Robinson, yeah.
Their random stud that came out of nowhere. They signed some wide receivers. They got Jamal Agnew, Philip Dorsett, and Marvin Jones. I mean,
I like the
that's
Marvin
money.
Jones.
I love Marvin Jones too. And you already have DJ Chark, who, in case you forgot, carried Gardner Minshew the previous season. He had a little bit of a down year this year because Gardner Minshew didn't play quite as well. But DJ Chark carried my fantasy team in 2019, bro. Like, that guy came out of nowhere. And so you have, I like Dorsett and I like Marvin Jones and I like DJ Chark. That's three solid wide receivers. Then you come in here, you franchise tag Cam Robinson on the offensive line. Had to be done. You got to protect Trevor Lawrence. We saw what just happened to Joe Burrow. Can't let it happen to Trevor Lawrence, right? You get Tyler Shatley at guard to build some depth in there. You shore up the defensive line a little bit by re-signing Dwayne Smoot, who, by the way, played pretty well for them. And then you take Tyson Alualu, who I believe, I feel like I'm confused. He played for the Steelers, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later, but yeah, another player that was taken from Pittsburgh. They also bring in Jihad Ward as some depth. They get Malcolm Brown from the Saints, who I must say is a good defensive tackle. He's not like a stud, but the guy can play. He's a very good nose tackle. You got Roy Robertson Harris as well. I mean, that's like 6 defensive linemen right there. They re-signed Sidney Jones, and this is massive, dude. They bring in Shaquille Griffin. This is the one that surprised me the most. I did not anticipate that at all.
No. He must believe in that team.
He has to, and this, I would imagine that at some point in time they're gonna bring in his brother as well. They seem to have this thing where they want to be on the same team no matter what, which is cool, by the way. But anyways, this guy, 3 years, $29 million guaranteed, is not even that. That's not even crazy. You average that out, it's $9 million for Shaquille Griffin. Last year, Seattle defensively as a whole struggled a little bit, so I'm not going to act like he was balling out for them. He was 11th in interceptions.
But he's an above-average corner for sure.
Exactly, top 20 last season, but he's definitely above average in general. And for them, ever since Jalen Ramsey left, they've been struggling at corner. So to get Shaquille Griffin is a dub.
Yeah, he believes in the Trevor train. He's got to.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then they have, Rayshawn Jenkins. They brought him as well, like the secondary. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not going to say they're going to compete for a playoff spot right away because we obviously don't know how good Trevor Lawrence is going to just jump right in. We
But
don't
they
know.
won't be dead last. Or I mean,
They
as
will
far as
not
like
be.
they won't not win any games is what
They
I'm trying to say. They're
they
not
will
going to go
not
0
be.
16.
They will not be 0-16. I mean, that's got to be at least a 6-win roster. Has to be minimum. So I like it. Listen, we live in Florida. I've never had an issue pulling for the Jags. I was pulling for the Jags so hard when they were in the AFC Championship game. It's not even funny. So it'll be nice to see Trevor Lawrence come in there and do well. I know you're excited because you get a better freaking Madden team next year. So good for you.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Jags next year for sure. Madden 22.
Yeah.
Let's get into the Texans.
Oh boy, here we go.
So just by looking at the Texans, I mean, right now, just the team in general, they're probably the most talked about team right now. They're trending. Deshaun Watson's in trouble. D-Hop left. J.J. Watt's gone. And it looks like they're building like a Walmart Ravens team right here. I mean, I'm seeing Tyrod Taylor signing a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. I see a Mark Ingram, literally from the Ravens. Philip Lindsay, so you got like a 1-2 punch there. You got Ryan Finley, who kind of balled out for the Bengals when Joe Burrow was gone. Yeah, I see Alex Erickson. I see Dante Moncrief. I see a lot of budget guys.
Bunch of
That's probably the
cast
best way to
emails,
explain them.
It looks like the island of misfit toys over there in Houston. Like a bunch of guys that nobody really wanted to sign, so they all just joined forces in Houston.
Desmond King. You got Jordan Jenkins, I mean, I like Shaq Lawson. I mean, he was acquired in a trade from Miami.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's probably the only quality sign or trade that I've seen. Maybe Marcus Cannon.
Can't forget they have David Johnson too, so they really have 3 running backs that are all like almost on the same. I don't mean this to be offensive to Philip Lindsay, but I'm not excited if Philip Lindsay is your number 1 halfback. I'm just not.
I mean, who would be the number 1 between David, Philip, and Mark?
Lindsay. David Johnson has not been staying healthy. I would say Philip Lindsay. Mark Ingram is just about out of the league at this point.
I mean, Lindsay's is definitely the number 1 paid, I'm pretty sure. I mean, just between Mark Ingram and Philip Lindsay, Lindsay is getting paid more.
Talent-wise, right now, today, on March 23rd, 2021, I would say Philip Lindsay got to be number 1.
Which is not a great thing.
Is a bigger name, but he's not David Johnson anymore.
I'm just saying, if I'm a Texans fan, I'm a little concerned coming into this season. I'm not going to sit here and say you're going to be dead last in the league, but I'm also not saying you're going to be in a playoff spot either.
Do they have their first round pick next year at least? Or did they trade that away too?
I don't know. I mean, they don't have Brian there anymore.
I sure hope they have that pick next year, man, or else they're in big trouble.
I'm just concerned. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say anything bad about you guys, Texans fans out there that might be watching this. But I'm just saying, I'm concerned. I'm legitimate, especially with Deshaun. We don't know what's happening. We've got like 22 women filing a lawsuit against him as we speak. We don't even know if he's going to be in the league next year.
Even if that whole thing is fake, Deshaun Watson is still a disaster for the Texans regardless. Like, just the fact that the Texans are refusing to trade him and he's going to be sitting out and then can you even imagine if the Texans organization is fabricating this whole situation to begin with? Then you have that to deal with where your team is trying to just shit on your best player to keep him. I mean, it's just, there's so many potential for disaster right now with the Texans. Like, they're on thin ice right now.
And I mean, I know some people would just sign him regardless of what's going on with Deshaun. But
of course, absolutely.
That's going to put some bad, negative, unwanted media attention on your team if you take Watson.
Exactly, and there's a chance that, like, depending on how this goes and how the charges end up, and if they get, federally, because right now they're just civil suits. If they get moved up, whatever the situation, I'm not like a law major or anything like that, but when Antonio Brown was going through this, it was 2020, right? And I remember the Saints worked him out because I was excited about that. But there was a thing that was like the NFL had to clear Antonio Brown for being able to join a team and play. Otherwise, we'd sign him and he wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah.
So
So even if you wanted
Deshaun
to,
Watson, exactly, if he ends up in that same situation and Roger Goodell comes down and is like, well, he's not going to play. There's a team. I mean, a team like the Dolphins, for example. I don't know how interested they even are anymore because I think they're slowly starting to believe in Tua. But let's say they were interested. Are they really going to part ways with Tua to have Deshaun Watson be suspended for the season? Like, it just I don't see how he gets traded until more information starts coming out. And that's unfortunate for the Texans because the draft is probably going to pass before that happens. So you're not going to be able to get that, number 2 draft pick from the Jets or whatever because it's gonna already be gone and the Jets are already going to be set on what they did in the draft. So I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, it's not looking good. Who's up next?
Next we have the Colts, who are just living life right now. Let me tell you about the Colts for a second. Comment section. The Philadelphia Eagles are paying $35 million for Carson Wentz to play quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. That's a dub. Like, I'm sorry, like Carson Wentz could be hot booty ass cheeks. You're not paying him a dime, so what the hell do you care? Like the Colts made out like bandits. His contract is voidable after this season, so if he is trash, they never have to pay him a dime.
I like the Colts just because they're always so good at keeping a good quarterback in the room somewhere. You went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck to, I mean, you had an offseason with Jacoby, but then you went right to Phillip Rivers, who's going to be in Hall of Fame. And then now you got Carson Wentz, who arguably could have been the MVP for, what was that, 2018?
He was the MVP, yeah. That was almost a unanimous decision before he got injured, yeah. But yeah, I mean, they didn't give up even that much. There's a conditional second rounder that could be a first round pick depending on how things go, and then you got a third round. Like, it's not even that bad compared to like what Matt Stafford required. You know what I'm saying? He didn't play every game last season, but he also led the league in picks with 15. So it's like he definitely was struggling, but was it the system? Was it the team not believing in him? Was it the offensive line being butt cheeks?
I just want to say that I think the team gave up on him, and he just lost confidence. There's no way you have a quarterback of that caliber who was going to be an MVP, and now he's just trash. I refuse to believe that. Yeah. I think he can revitalize his career in Indianapolis.
Sometimes injuries can mess with your head, but I think it's a combination of both of those things. I think because we'll talk about the 49ers later on in this video, but Jimmy G is a similar situation where he used to be mobile and run around and make plays, and ever since he got hurt, he kind of just sits in the pocket scared. So that kind of stuff happens when you get injured. Sometimes you can't get over the mental block. But I think with Philadelphia, it was a combination of the mental block of the injury, the fact that every time he went on the bench for Nick Foles, the team played better. That guy would make you feel like shit. And then, just ultimately the coach and it was just weird because they fired the coach because he didn't. The Eagles, what are they doing, bro? The Eagles are easily finishing last place in the East this year. No offense to the Eagles fans, but when we talk about the NFC East later, you'll see what we're talking about. They are in trouble.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Eagles in depth for sure.
But the Colts also re-signed Marlon Mack, which is a W, and they re-signed Xavier Rhodes, which is a W. I mean, that team was 11-5, and they almost beat the Bills in the first game. Like, they didn't have that many things to improve on, if we're being real. They just needed to make sure they kept a good quarterback in the room. They have. Yes.
With the running backs in the Colts, now that you're signing Marlon Mack, what do you do with Jonathan Taylor in that situation? Like, do you start him? Who starts? Is it like a 1-2 punch? Or are they going to split snaps?
I think they 1-2 punch it like the Browns. I really like. You're starting to see. I think the Browns, what they were able to do with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and the Saints were doing this. The Saints, to an extent, were doing this with Kamara and Ingram. But you're starting to see this duo really starting to pick up some steam in terms of like wanting to have two guys at all times, as opposed to like 10 years ago when it was Adrian Peterson every single play. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like you want to have two, sometimes even three guys. Like the Ravens had three of them until Mark Ingram just stopped playing entirely. But I think Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor, and they have, I can't think of his name. They have somebody else too that was also playing really well for them. But I think, Marlon Mack is making $2 million, so even if he doesn't take a single snap, who cares? I like the Colts. They have $36 million in cap. I think they're probably gonna keep that semi-open just in case they decide to keep Carson Wentz after the season. So they're probably not gonna make too much of a splash. But
my one remaining question for the Colts at this very moment: are they going to keep T.Y. Hilton, or are they going to let him walk? That's what I want to know.
It's really interesting. I haven't even seen that much about like T.Y. Hilton meeting with teams. Like it seems like he's just kind of on vacation, chilling.
Yeah, I think he's just waiting. I think his agent's doing all the work. He's just kind of like, let me know what's going on. But I don't see anything on Twitter saying like he's visiting this team, he's taking offers from this team, agent is reaching out. Nothing.
That's weird.
Nothing.
It's like there's no way nobody's calling him. There's no way.
I mean, as a Ravens fan, I want to call him right now for my personal phone.
He's the best receiver right now. Today, he's the best receiver left. So
it's gonna be interesting. Now, the last team for that division is the Titans. I mean, just yesterday, last night, they got rid of Jackson, right? Adoree Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what, you replace him with Janoris Jenkins? Like,
I want if any Tennessee Titans fans are watching this, please don't try to get yourself excited about Janoris Jenkins. Sometimes when fans their team signs players, they start looking up highlights and stuff, and they try to justify how he's going to be a good. No, don't do it. I'm telling you right now, as a Saints fan, Janoris. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's not a good replacement at all. I mean, sure, Janoris had 3 interceptions. I mean that's okay, but
go find
that's not a good replacement.
Go find the stat for dropped interceptions for Janoris Jenkins. He should have had 12, if we're being real.
But I do like. Here's the one signing that I do like. I love actually for the Titans is Bud Dupree. He was holding that Steelers squad together on defense. Other than TJ, I would say Bud is probably the other guy that was kind of killing it before he got injured. He agreed on a 5-year contract up to $85 million, $35 million guaranteed. He had 8 sacks last year.
Yep, they tried it with Jadeveon Clowney. It didn't work, so they stirred up the position with somebody better. I like it.
And then, other than the cornerbacks, they got some more depth. They got Kevin Johnson. But, the only other signing that I do love is Denico Autry. He was a beast on the Colts defensive line right there with DeForest Buckner. He's signing for a 3-year deal for $20 million, and he actually had 7 sacks, 7.5.
Oof.
So, I like this signing. I do.
God, the Colts D-line was so good last year. Jesus Christ.
It was. So, I just now... The Colts is taking a shot, but Titans is kicking it in. I feel like they got upset when the Ravens finally went through that line, and they're like, never again. Denico Autry, come on.
There's like a little free agency rivalry going on between the Ravens and the Titans. They seem to keep on like beating each other and then fixing the reasons why they beat each other and then like going back and forth. It's interesting.
It's interesting. It's too ironic because like, okay, they saw the reason why they lost is because Lamar finally got open, finally was able to run through that line. Now you signed Denico and Bud Dupree. That's just it's just too. I don't think there's no reason for that other than because they lost the Ravens. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we move into the what I believe to be the best division in the NFL this coming season, the AFC North. And we're going to start off with what I also believe to be the class of the division for the first time in probably my entire existence is the Cleveland Browns.
What a world.
We'll talk about why in a second, but it seems like the Ravens and the Steelers, the Ravens are kind of staying neutral. The Steelers are losing a bunch of guys. And the Browns are just chilling. They brought back Rashard Higgins, no problem. They JoJo Natson, they have wide receivers. We already know that. They have Odell still. He hasn't been. They're talking about, is he going to get traded? I don't know. We'll find out. To be honest, they played better after he got hurt, so it's kind of interesting. Does Baker even want Odell? Like, you know what I'm saying? Who do we even know? And then their defense, they had Tack McKinley, who's been having some issues off the field, but we all know he's talented. And then Troy Hill at corner. Their secondary was one of their weaknesses. They had Troy Hill at corner, and they had John Johnson. John Johnson is massive. Like, he's second among safeties in total tackles last season.
That entire group of safeties is most arguably the best in the NFL.
It's gross. And Grant Delpit didn't even get to play last season, really, so he gets to come back. But yeah, John Johnson was second in tackles total among safeties, and he was sixth in passes defended among safeties. Like, the guy's a stud. that secondary. The corners are, like they're good. You got Denzel, you got Troy Hill. Troy Hill, just want to point out, was big booty butt cheeks against the Packers in that playoff game. But I don't think he's a garbage player. So it's a good pickup. And they re-signed Cody Parkey for some reason. Didn't he miss like a bunch of extra points last year? I don't know. But anyways, I like the Browns, man. It is interesting that the Browns are good. I don't really know how else to put it. I mean,
what a world are we live in right now? Like, who would have ever thought in our lifetime, the Cleveland Browns?
It doesn't seem possible. Even with the loaded roster they had, they went 8-8, and it was just like, oh my god, this team is never going to.
It took a while.
Going to be good.
It took a new coach.
And they just come in and stomp the Steelers, and now people want to play for the Browns. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then we get into the Ravens, my favorite team. I mean, I'm just going to speak personally for a couple of seconds here. So you get rid of Judon, you get rid of Unique, and we have done nothing besides Kevin Zeitler. Where's our number one receiver? Where? We missed out on Kenny Galladay. We missed out on Marvin. We missed out on so many big names. And we had Sammy Watkins come visit us. He left. Now he's headed over to, I want to say, where's he going? He's going over to the Giants? Where's he going?
No,
Help me out.
The Giants. It's is it Washington? I'll look it up. Keep talking. I'll look it up.
Doesn't matter. He's not coming. He's not coming to Baltimore. That's the main point I'm trying to say. So it's like, what do we do? Do we sign Ty? We haven't called anybody. I don't know what DeCosta's doing, but Josh Oliver is not the solution. I can tell you that right now. This guy only caught 3 passes for what, 15 yards?
Yeah,
I was so upset.
By the way,
he was going. Okay, he's going to the Colts. So that's great. Just because now Carson Wentz might have Ty and Sammy, whereas the Ravens are just working with Hollywood, and Willie Snead might be leaving. He's a free agent, so we don't know what's happening. I mean, we re-signed Tyrus Bowser on a 4-year deal. I mean, is that a good replacement for Judon or anybody? I don't know. I mean, we re-signed Derek Wolfe. I like him. I just don't think he's. I just want us to do some more. I like Kevin Zeitler. I like it because we're a run team. Everybody knows it. You can study us all you want. You know we're going to try to run 200 yards on you that same day, and we still do it anyway. So I like Kevin Zeitler. I just want us to get a number one receiver. That's all I want.
Yeah, it's just interesting that they just don't seem to want to help Lamar Jackson be a passing quarterback, because everybody the Ravens are feeding into the memes. Like, Lamar Jackson has like the 6th rated deep ball accuracy in the entire NFL, better than Josh Allen. And it's like, so then why aren't we passing the ball then? Why aren't we getting receivers in here? They're just, that you talk about it all the time. They're stuck in this like 1980s mindset that you have to be able to run the ball nonstop. And it works until you get to the playoffs. It doesn't work like that anymore. People are ready for that. They have a whole game plan for that. So,
I mean, it's just, who do we blame? Do you blame the run game for not being so strong to the point where it's like you were investing everything into your run game and you're just going to blame them? Do you blame Roman for the play calling? Do you blame the wide receivers, the lack of? I mean, I will say this before we move on to the next team, is that I do like our interest. We're trying. We try to get Juju in here. Right. We offered him money. He stayed in Pittsburgh. We saw Sammy, so it does show that we're trying. So I'm going to leave off on a positive note here. We are trying. We got $12 million in cap, so I'm assuming that we're restructuring a couple people, letting go of Judon. I'm not mad about letting go of those guys, because we do have Bowser and we do have Wolf and Calais still. But I just hope that we get somebody to kind of ease the workload on Lamar.
Yeah, man. My question really would just, like, my interest is, they're getting all these meetings and all these conversations and all these contract offers to these guys, and I'm just wondering what it is that's turning them off to signing the contracts. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, the wide receivers, right? They get there's incentives. So if you guys ever saw the Juju incentive, all these incentives that they're referring to, it's yards per catch, or catches in general, touchdowns, stuff like that. You know what you're going to do in Baltimore if you're a receiver? Block, 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 and some more blocking. Receivers don't want to do that. They didn't come to the NFL just to block all day. So I feel like that's what's turning them off, personally. But I mean,
so the Ravens put like a $2 million incentive if you get 100 catches, but they know damn well they're not going to throw the ball 100 times.
They're not going to get those incentives.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, I spoke my piece. I just hopefully make some more moves. Moving on.
yeah. Don't forget about Josh Oliver, stud. All right. We got. We move on to probably like I said, for those of you guys that maybe are finding us just from the podcast, with Madden, I do a Bengals theme team, and we have a lot of Bengals fans there. And I must admit, I'm kind of proud of the Bengals this offseason. I gotta be honest. It started off bad when we talked about how they just gave up Carl Lawson kind of without even trying. But they potentially fixed that hole with Trey Hendrickson. Coming from the Saints, he tied for third in sacks, 13 and a half. And he did that only playing like 60% of our defensive snaps. So that's kind of actually insane. But you have to wonder, is that because he played on an absolutely freaking loaded defensive line? Or is he really that good? And we're going to find out because he's kind of the guy.
I mean, you guys paid him like he's the guy.
He's the guy.
He cannot be a one-hit wonder.
It is only 2 years guaranteed money. They signed him for 4, but it's only so you can get out of it in 2 years if he's a flop, which is not the end of the world. I believe in Trey Hendrickson. I watched him. Like I said, to get 13 and a half sacks, only playing like half the game, is pretty insane. So we'll just have to see if he can do that being double teamed all night. Because I'll tell you right now, I don't have the exact advanced statistics in front of me, but I'm fairly certain that he was not double teamed almost at all last year. Cam Jordan got his ass destroyed, but it opened up the rushing lanes for Trey Hendrickson, and he just ate quarterbacks alive. Most of the big name guys too. It seemed like he just dominated Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. That was where all of his sacks came from.
I was very impressed with Trey. Honestly, he was third in sacks, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, and he led the league in sacks for a long time. But then he, once Marcus Davenport came back from his injury, he's played a little bit less snaps, got a little bit less involved, and then Aaron Donald and TJ Watt kind of just ran away with that. But I mean, legitimately, Trey Hendrickson was like in the running for Defensive Player of the Year halfway through the season. So that's a good signing. They lose William Jackson III, but he was going to get paid a lot, and you didn't really want to spend that much. Like, is he really worth that much? I think he's going to do well in Washington. I don't know if he was worth that much in the scheme that they run here. So
you got depth, though. You got depth.
You bring in depth, exactly. You re-sign Tony Brown. You bring in Chidobe Awuzie, who the Cowboys secondary wasn't that good, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a bad player. And
he was injured too for a little bit.
And he was injured, and he has incentives to make the Pro Bowl and stuff. So let's see what happens with that. Players like their money, man. And then, which by the way, there's not enough Bengals fans in the world to make anybody. As we saw with Jesse Bates, there's just simply not enough Bengals fans to get their players into the Pro Bowl. It's impossible. So he's never going to see that money, even if he plays great. It's unfortunate. But they bring in Mike Hilton, top 5 slot corner in the entire NFL. Some people say he's the best slot corner in the entire NFL. Well, that's a good ass signing. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. You look at the Bengals, and it's like, what do they need now? I am shocked and impressed that they pushed so hard for Kenny Galladay. That's a good sign. Like, Joe Burrow's about to head. Like, that tells me that they're probably going to draft Jamar Chase if he's there. If he's not there, I'm not sure what they're going to do with that position. Maybe even Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is moving up the board, by the way. You saw he ran a 4.46. Are you kidding me?
What I will say about the Bengals, they have an amazing recruiting staff, or just the ability to recruit. Like, you got Joe Burrow out here on Twitter recruiting people himself.
Joe Burrow went nuts with the offensive linemen, dude. He was in every offensive lineman's
so hard to
I
get
swear
Joe.
to God. And they've signed, like, they've done well. They got Riley Reif. They're working on Try Turner. And I think I'm missing somebody. I swear they signed another one. But they're doing really well. And they can still, maybe they draft Penei if they don't sign any more offensive linemen. Then you have that in there. Or maybe you get offensive linemen in the second round. Like, they're doing what they needed to do, which was help Joe Burrow and shore up the defense. They didn't need a wide receiver. They have T. Higgins, who played great for a rookie. They have Tyler Boyd, who me and you just found out this weekend is quite possibly the best slot receiver in the NFL. When we first heard that, we're like, y'all are crazy. But it's actually accurate. So, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, like, After I said Joe, I couldn't hear you a word after that.
Oh, really?
That sucks.
L. It's okay.
God damn it. Where do we
But
start
yeah,
from?
so anyways, like I said, Tyler Boyd, unbeknownst to me, is probably the best slot wide receiver in the entire NFL. They have T. Higgins. They can draft another one like Joe Burrow. They have Joe Mixon coming back. They have the offensive line. The offense, I mean, can we just talk for 1 second if they draft Kyle Pitts? I mean, that offense is quite possibly...
It's scary.
That's the best offense in that division. It has to be, even though we just talked about the Browns. If they, I mean, they don't even need to sign. They already have 2 good wide receivers. If they get Kyle Pitts and
Either
they shore
one.
up the offensive line, I just don't even know. Yeah, exactly. Or Jamar
Chase
Chase
or
if he's
Pitts.
there. Or even Devontae Smith. Shit, just line them up. Any one of these guys, that offense. Even Jalen Waddle, trade down for Jalen Waddle. I don't care. That offense would be disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's
shout out
looking
to
good for the Bengals.
The Bengals are on the come up big time. That division is outrageous this year, I think.
And then we have the Steelers.
Boy.
I'm going to try to keep all bias as possible, humanly possible, out of everything I'm about to say. So, okay. The secondary's taking a shot, right? Let's be real about that. You guys lost Mike Hilton. You lost Steven Nelson. I think the only guy that you really have back there that's doing anything really... Shit, I lost my train of thought. Who's a safety?
Joe Hayden?
Joe Hayden. No.
They have Minka Fitzpatrick.
Minka Fitzpatrick. Thank you. Minka Fitzpatrick. Thank you. So, I mean, besides that, I mean, who do you guys have back there? And then I do like how you guys are keeping Juju. You know, the fact that he was willing to take a pay cut to stay with you guys. He could have been with the Ravens. But instead, he stays in Pittsburgh for $7 million. And Juju, I mean, all due respect, this man has 97 receptions. He was 9th in the NFL. And then he had 9 touchdowns. That's tied for 10th. So as much as we want to say TikTok boy, Corvette, all this crap out here, I mean, he's good. He's good. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not.
He gets the job done.
He just talks a lot. I just want him to focus on
He's a little bit of an
football.
asshole, but he gets the job done.
And then you guys kept Ray McLeod. That seemed to be like your gadget player. He can kind of just do like the Tyreek Hill type, kind of like run around in the backfield, kind of confuse you a little bit and run upfield for a little bit. So, I mean, between you got Cloud, Juju, and then you got Claypool. I mean, you guys are keeping the boys together for the most part on offense. And everybody else is kind of a re-sign. You kept Banner, you kept everybody else. So it's just, I don't have a problem with the Steelers except all of the shots that they're taking on defense.
Yeah. I mean, listen, is Big Ben falling off the cliff? That's the biggest question for the Steelers.
He was willing to come back for free. Okay? He literally said on Twitter, I will come back for the bare minimum. He doesn't care how much he has. He literally give me nothing. I just want to play another season.
To win.
Now, is that a good thing for the Steelers or a bad thing? Because he is the oldest quarterback in the division. Okay? Everybody else is like 23 or younger. And, I mean, I don't know how Steelers fans feel about Ben. Like, it's kind of like a Drew Brees situation. Like, he's been your quarterback for how long? And, like, you kind of want him to just get out of here because he could be holding you guys back. But it's also Ben. Like, that's all you guys have seen. That's probably all you guys know. So it's like, what do? You guys are probably conflicted. And I get that.
It's exactly like that.
But, I mean, also you guys have Mason as your backup. So it's like, I'm still taking Ben over Mason. He was hitting guys directly in their hands, and you still had guys dropping stuff. So, I mean, I guess.
That's true. Ben didn't really do anything wrong. Yeah. Most of Ben's picks were not on him that I saw.
I saw a lot of tips.
Especially in that Browns game. A lot of that Browns game wasn't even Big Ben's fault. Almost all of those, like, he threw, 5 picks? Like, 4 of them were tipped. So...
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's Ben. I really don't. I think it's just these receivers have something else on their mind other than football. And, you know, I think they're just really cocky. They feel full of themselves. They're very confident players. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it gets the better of them. I don't know if that's it. I'm just taking stats.
It's a blessing and a curse to be confident, man.
But yeah, I mean, as far as this division goes in general, I think it's a very tough division. If we're just ranking these teams here, if we're sitting here going to say, like, if we rank them, even if we're saying the Steelers is the last team in that division, that still means it's a very good division. I mean, the Bengals want to come up
10-7. You know what I mean? Like they'll be last place at 10-7 or 9-8 or something like that. Like that's still a good. Like that's tough. That's tough, bro.
So I'm not sitting here. I don't want to say the Steelers are going to be last. I don't want to sit here and say the Bengals are going to be last. So I'm just saying whoever ends up last, they're still probably going to have 9 or 10. It's still going to be a very good division, regardless.
Be between 8 and 10 wins. That the team that finishes in last in that division is going to be at least 500, I think.
Yeah. So
which is just it's just unfortunate. But now we move over to the AFC West. That's been absolutely dominated by the Kansas City Chiefs. But let me tell you something, man. Here comes the Chargers, bro. Here comes the Chargers, man. First of all, they would have been a playoff team if they didn't choke every single game. Okay, and that goes on the coaching staff.
So
mostly.
many games, less than touchdowns.
So you look at how many games they lost that they had the lead. Look at the team. They had leads against the Saints, against the Chiefs, against the Buccaneers. Like they had leads. They had leads against all the best teams in the NFL. And then the coaching staff sold.
That kid Herbert is the real deal.
Herbert's the real deal. We're about to have Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence run the NFL in about 5 years. This is going to be this is going to be a little bit of a stretch comparison, but I'm not comparing these guys to them, but it's going to be the same as how we had when it was Brady, Manning, and Breeze, where it was just those three guys running that generation. Same situation's about to happen right now, I think. That's how I view it.
You're 100% right. You gotta throw in Josh Allen is there as well.
That's
still
true.
A young guy.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's a tough man. The NFL's in good hands at quarterback.
And really Lamar. Is. I mean, obviously Mahomes, I'm biased, but I mean he was the
Patrick
MVP
Mahomes.
last year, and he runs a lot. I get it, but Mahomes definitely.
There's too
it's
many.
a definitely good generation for quarterbacks.
It's outrageous. But they bring in Jared Cook, who listen, guys. Jared Cook is good. Okay, he's inconsistent as all hell, but he is a good tight end. They lost Hunter Henry, correct?
Yes.
So
up to the Patriots.
Bringing in Jared Cook, W. They short up the off. This is what gets me excited about the Chargers this season. Is much like the Bengals, they saw the issue with the offensive line, and issue no more, my friends, because they bring in Matt Filer and the best center in the entire NFL, Corey Linsley. I don't care about that contract. I don't care that it's $62.5 million. I don't care, bro.
Can we just talk about how the Chargers are just stealing the Packers' offensive line?
Yeah.
Bulaga, Corey, I mean,
they are.
Let's go.
That's funny. And then even Ode Abushi for some depth. I mean, like they haven't done much on defense. Michael Davis re-signed. But I don't know. I like it. I think if the coaching staff can just be better than it was under Anthony Lynn, I mean, that seems to me like almost a guaranteed playoff contender. Like, I don't know. Still have Keenan Allen playing at a high level. I like it.
Then we have the Chiefs. Super Bowl.
Here we go.
So, I have nothing really wrong to say about the Chiefs. It's just Patrick Mahomes is running for his life in the Super Bowl. Okay?
Yes.
So the offensive line seemed to be the issue, correct? Now, the offseason problems was like, okay, so what do we do with Schwartz? What do we do with Fisher? We let him go. And then we signed Joe Thuney for a 5-year contract worth $80 million. That includes 30.5 guaranteed. So it's like, is that the replacement? And then you have Kyle Long, who came out of retirement to play for these guys. Yeah. So, I mean...
That was interesting. That's an interesting one. Like, does he still have it or not? We're going to find out.
I don't know if those are the good replacements.
He was a really freaking good offensive lineman. Like, he was a top tier.
Yeah, he was. So I guess the question remains, will this offensive line protect Mahomes? Will this offensive line stand up to guys like Shaquille Barrett and Levante David and have Mahomes nice and secure in the pocket and pay him a lot less? So, I mean, they're barely positive in cap. They got $402,000, not even $1 million.
Thanks to Mahomes. He restructured, saved him almost $19 million, unlike Tyreek.
Yeah, Tyreek, he wants to stay out of it. Talk to my agent, talk to my family. I don't know.
Whatever, man. Doesn't make sense to me, but it's cool though. They'll be back. They'll be back in the Super Bowl probably. Let's be real.
Yeah, they're definitely a dynasty in the making, as long as they don't mess it up like the Seahawks.
Yeah, and now we have the Raiders, which, like, I need to understand: are the Raiders ever going to be good?
I'm so confused
because they make moves and their team looks good every season, and it's just like, when is it finally going to happen? Like, when are they finally going to take that next step into the playoffs and make a run? I don't think Derek Carr is a bad quarterback. I don't think they have a lack of talent. They play to their competition. 1 week they're beating the Saints, 1 week they're beating the Chiefs. The next week they need a Hail Mary to beat the Jets.
It's
Like,
so inconsistent.
It's very frustrating as like a casual, like just watching the NFL as a general fan. Why are the Raiders not making the playoffs? So they go out and what did we just talk about earlier? The running back duo. They go sign Kenyon Drake. That's a W. 2 years, $11 million. He was 13th in yards, 10th in touchdowns. He's good with Josh Jacobs. That's a good duo. They also re-signed Theo Riddick just in case. They lose. I can't think of the receiver, the name they lost, but they bring in John Brown. Yes, they bring in John Brown. That's a W as well. They re-signed Zay Jones. They re-signed tight end Derek Carrier. They re-signed some of their offensive linemen. Like, they bring in Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah, that's going to be nice
from the Ravens. Which Yannick is interesting. Like, he seemed like he's kind of bouncing around a little bit. What's the team? What are team's issue with him? I'm a little bit.
Well,
confused.
he was with the Jags. That's where he started, and then he went to the Ravens to reunite with Calais Campbell, and now he's gone.
That's true. Wasn't he on the Vikings for a minute, or am I tripping?
No, he was on the Vikings before he got to us. He split the season between us and the Vikings.
Right. This is weird. It's just weird because he's so good. It's just weird that he just bounces around like that. It's kind of like Brandon Cooks.
Like, why is
he bouncing around? But yeah, I mean, they haven't done that, but they've made some small moves. I really liked the Kenyon Drake. They didn't have a lot of cap space is their issue. They only have $1 million left right now. So to have a tight squeeze in cap space and sign guys like Kenyon Drake, John Brown, and Nick Martin, you take those.
When we talk about the Raiders, I just think it's like more of like an identity crisis. Like, are you a passing team? Are you a running team? And I think now that Josh Jacobs is there, they're like, okay, maybe we're this ground and pound 1-2 punch with Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, throw it to Darren Waller if you need to. Heavy offensive line. Derek Carr, game manager.
You can launch it. They have John Brown and Henry Ruggs.
Yep.
So
got deep balls.
Derek Carr can just cock back and launch that bitch. And somebody's going to be there. So
it's going to be interesting. I want to see what they do.
It's interesting. Like, is John Gruden a good coach? I mean, that's a question that we have to ask. We know he was good when he was with the Buccaneers, but I mean,
he's been a 500 coach since he came out of retirement.
Yeah, it's like, dude, eventually, like, some of the blame is going to have to come on you, my guy. I mean, look how much, like, there's talent here, and it's not.
Maybe he still.
Like I said, you can't beat the Chiefs. Like, I mean, they compete with the Chiefs every time they play. You can't.
Which is helping him keep his job.
Yeah, you can't beat the Saints. I mean, you manhandle the Saints. You beat the Chiefs and almost beat them again. You can't be that good of a team and keep finishing 8-8. It doesn't make sense.
And then, let's see. Let me have the Broncos.
Oh, jeez.
I'll say this about the Broncos. They love their secondary boy. They love their secondary. I mean,
they want 18 cornerbacks on the field at all times, bro.
So not only do you got Kyle Fuller, who just came over. Then you got Ronald Darby that came over, but you re-signed Justin Simmons. You give him the franchise tag for $61 million. That guarantees $35. I mean, Justin is a stud. I mean, he's got 5 interceptions, tied for 4th. He's got 77 tackles to his name. And then they even brought back Kareem Jackson. So, I mean, that secondary is nice. You bring back Shelby Harris. He re-signed for a 3-year deal. Yeah. So, I mean, you got rid of Philip Lindsay, but I mean, I think they were just having a little bit of confusion of who's going to be the lead. You're gonna have Gordon, or you're gonna have Philip Lindsay. I think they decided to go with Gordon. That's why they got rid of Lindsay. I guess the question with the Broncos is Locke the guy?
Right, absolutely. That's the biggest question.
Is Locke the guy? I mean, you got a stud in Sutton. I do like Tim Patrick, but is Locke the guy? I don't know. I mean, the kid shows a lot of potential. He has a hell of an arm, but I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they even have an identity. Do they want to be a passing team? Do they want to run? I don't understand. I mean, I don't know if Broncos are going to be coming up or down. I don't know which way they're going. I just know they love their secondary. That's all I know.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just
the question mark.
Yeah, they could. That's one of those teams that could be randomly 10-7 next year, or they could also be 4-13. Like I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know. I'm just going to leave it as a question mark right now because like I want to say because I did the Broncos team for like a minute, guys, and
Mhm.
I love the secondary. I know obviously historically they've been good, but even currently to today they're good. I mean, you got Kareem, you got Justin Simmons, you got Darby Fuller. I like it. I like it, guys. Keep it up. Just hopefully Broncos fans, you guys get some. I know it's a tough division. You know, you got the Chiefs running your entire division, and then you got the Raiders. They're up and down, and then I get it. I get it. But the Broncos, it
Yeah.
seems like they're on the way up.
And then now we move over to the NFC, and last season the NFC was definitely
The worst.
weaker. They were weaker throughout than the AFC was. They had better teams at the top, but like overall they were much worse than the AFC. Having a 7-9 team make the playoffs, which
It's
here we go
wild.
to the NFC East, and we start with the Eagles, and they have absolutely no cap space because of Carson Wentz still being on their books. So they've done quite honestly nothing. They've re-signed a couple guys, and they brought in Anthony Harris, which is nice to replace Jalen Mills, but he's not Jalen Mills though. So I think, and we're going to talk about the other teams, and once we do, it's going to become clear that, unfortunately for the Philadelphia Eagles fans, even with Jalen Hurts, who I'm not sure about, this has to be the worst team. Like on paper, this is the worst one, easily.
It's unfortunate. I mean,
They're still
how do you
negative
go
12
from a
million in cap,
team
so
that went to the Super Bowl a few years ago and now you're dead last?
yep, dead
Crazy.
last.
And then we go to a team that I'm really, really excited about, the Giants.
They are
These
doing
guys
good.
have
They are
made some
really
moves.
yes.
I mean, they grabbed Kenny Galladay. They signed that big number one receiver. No more excuses for Danny Dimes. He signed for 4 years, $72 million. You got John Ross, who was a combine beast. You got Kyle Rudolph, who, I mean, right now, as from the last time I checked Twitter, he's having a little bit of foot issues. There might be an injury. There might be some surgery needed. So they haven't signed him officially, but there was some concern there. But I mean, Kyle Rudolph is one of the better tight ends in the league, so I don't see him going anywhere. I think they're going to see that through. And then you sign your stud on the line for Leonard Williams. He got the franchise tag. He was seventh in sacks. So and then you have your guys recruiting Adoree Jackson last night. So I love this. I
Yeah,
love what these guys are doing.
they're doing good, man. Danny Dimes and Sam Darnold are on the same boat of like, this is it, bro. Like you gotta, like time's running out for these guys. Um, I believe in Daniel Jones. I know I'm in the minority, but
That boy can run. I'll tell you that right
I
now.
will. I will not be able to believe in him anymore if he still fails with this team. Like,
Because I just know he's been a question mark since day one. I mean, if you would
exactly.
have
That's
saw
how.
of some of the reactions on draft day when
Yep.
they reached for this kid,
Yeah.
they were just in disbelief. But I mean, look, this is a
Ton
do
of
or die
pressure.
season. You got the weapons.
Yeah.
Put up
No
or
more
shut up.
excuses.
But
So now we got the Cowboys, and listen. I mean, the only thing the Cowboys had to do coming into this offseason was keep Dak Prescott, and they did that.
they did
And
that for sure.
this is the kind of contract that you have to pay for your quarterback. This is just what the market is. So you can sit here and be like, "Oh my God, 160 million." That's just what you have to do, man. I mean, I don't know what to tell you
I was one
guys.
of those
Like,
people. I'll say it. I think
if you,
my first thought they overpaid. But I mean, now you're looking at the
yeah,
market, maybe not.
you just look at recent quarterback extensions. I mean, Russell Wilson's was 140 million. Like Aaron Rodgers, like this is just how much you get paid. If you have a quarterback throwing 4,500 yards when he's healthy, this is what he's going to get paid. Dak Prescott is not the reason why the Cowboys haven't been successful. That is a fact. Even when like last year, the injury, the team, that whatever. But like in the past, when they've been like 13-3, for example, and then they lose in the playoffs, he's not the reason for that. They've had other issues.
Secondary, I would say too.
A huge
Been a
issue coming
problem.
into this season is, does Ezekiel Elliott give a shit? Because last season it didn't look like he did. He just looked like he was here to get his paycheck and go home.
Got like a Le'Veon
And
Bell
it's
situation.
exactly, so it's like, are you going to play this year or not? Because if you're not, you got to get out of here. Um, They bring in a couple of offensive linemen. And like I said, they don't really because of Dak Prescott the cap. They do a couple of little things here and there. They bring in Keanu Neal, who was 10th among safeties with tackles. Some people are saying he might move down into a linebacker slot every once in a while. So
Yeah, I
that's a
think
good
that
signing.
actually is
But
official,
they
though.
really didn't. They didn't have too much freedom this offseason to do a whole lot. So they did what they needed to do. They re-signed Dak Prescott. So I suppose that's a W for an offseason, really.
I know Skip Bayless is over here somewhere saying that's a W. I know he's over here saying they're going to be number one.
Skip
Forget Washington
Bayless,
football team.
16
Forget
0.
Giants. 16-0. And then that brings us to the Washington football team.
Fitz.
Fitz Magic Baby.
Let's
So,
go.
is there going to be a QB battle, right? Between Fitzpatrick and Heineke, right?
Yeah, they got to find out if Heineke was a one-hit wonder or not.
That's interesting.
They have to
interesting.
find out.
I like this. I love the mystery behind the Washington football team. Like, was that playoff
Yeah.
run? I wonder. What was it? Was it a real deal? Like, they looked so good. And then you bring Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is known for, playing after, like he just comes in and makes someone better. I mean, look at Tua. So, I mean, I love Fitzpatrick. Even if Fitzpatrick starts, okay, he was 5th in QBR, and he only threw 8 interceptions. I don't think that's terrible. And then you go ahead and grab Curtis Samuel, signing for a 3-year deal. So you're giving someone to play with Terry. And then you re-sign Brandon Scherf, who was one of the better offensive linemen. And then you go ahead and grab William Jackson for a 3-year, $40 million deal. So, I mean, it looks like they're just loading up. I think they're going to be right there with the Giants. And the Cowboys, it's going to be way better than it was last year. If I can say, nothing can be worse than last year. I mean, what, with the 7-9 team went to the playoffs? I mean, come on.
Yeah. The NFC East pulled a full 180 except for the Eagles.
Yeah, it looks like everybody brought themselves out of the graveyard except the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, really, realistically, the Cowboys were only there because Dak Prescott was out, and so you'd have to imagine they're going to go back to 10, 11 wins next season with Dak Prescott just playing, just because of that, because they lost a lot of close games too, and then Washington made the playoffs and they got really, really hot once they had a reasonable quarterback in Alex Smith. I mean, Dwayne Haskins was so awful.
Bad.
That all they needed was for Alex Smith in his one leg to come in there and just manage the game. That was it, and they won like 5 games in a row.
Got to rename the comeback player of the year after him. You have to.
Exactly, absolutely. And so it's just like, well, it'll be either him or Eric Berry, because Eric Berry almost died from cancer too.
That's true.
But one of those two guys. But anyways, Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, kind of the same. Like they've guaranteed themselves Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think coming into camp, they're definitely wondering about Heineke. Like, what was that we just watched? Because I don't think even they thought that was going to happen. And like, I'm pretty sure Washington's coaching staff went in there and thought they were going to lose by 40.
He gave Tom Brady a run for his money.
He was the only one that gave Tom Brady a run for his money, by the way, in the entire playoffs.
No,
because they caught that team so off guard.
And I want to say
the
that
Buccaneers' defense was not expecting to have to actually put out any effort in that game.
Yeah, it's true. And Heineke wasn't a rookie either. Like, he's been in the league for a little bit now. Am I right about that?
Yeah, he's been in and out. He's had some off the field issues.
So it's
kind
just
of a
wild.
comeback story.
All right, let's go to the NFC South. So who do you got?
NFC South. Here we go. So I love this. We have the Saints first. And
all right, let's go.
Anybody that's been around the channel before now may or may not have attended a live stream after the Saints lost to the Buccaneers, where I got endlessly trolled about the Saints cap situation, saying we were going to lose Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, everybody in the goddamn team. And we were negative $100 million in cap space. I laid out how we were going to get out of that without losing any major pieces. Everybody said that's not how it works. We're out of the cap space. We didn't lose any major pieces. Eat it.
Restructuring.
Eat it.
Restructuring.
Suck it, haters. I love watching like cap Twitter, bro. The people on Twitter, I think they know about cap. Just like so confused. I mean, when the Taysom Hill restructure got announced, people were laughing so hard as if the Saints were actually paying Taysom Hill $140 million. Like, are you dumb? All you had to do was all you had to do was read the second sentence. Tweets only have 140 characters, guys. You don't have to read a lot. All you got to do is get down to the second sentence where it says it's a fake contract, basically. The whole thing's voidable. They just did it so they could re-sign Jameis Winston.
Voidable.
Which, by the way, if you restructure your quarterback to re-sign another one, the odds are the one you're re-signing is the one you want the most. So he's probably going to be the starter, I hope, Jameis Winston. But we lost Emmanuel Sanders and Janoris Jenkins. Those are the only two starters that we lost when we were negative $100 million in cap space. We lost bum-ass Janoris Jenkins, and we lost Emmanuel Sanders, who never really fit the scheme in the first place. That is one of the biggest W off seasons that I could think of in recent memory, just in terms of being such in a shithole and getting out with no damage.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's unbelievable. And not only did they get out with no damage, but the two guys we lost was our second corner and our second receiver. If we restructure, which we are, we're re-signing, or we're extending Ramczyk and Marshawn. We're in talks to do that right now. Once that happens, that allows you to restructure that first this year, just like with Taysom Hill. So we're going to have cap space this season. And, I mean, look at the guys we're talking to. Richard Sherman. He's better than Janoris Jenkins. I don't care if he's old. He is still better than Janoris Jenkins. Look at some of the wide receivers available. And nobody signed Golden Tate yet. Golden Tate's comparable to Emmanuel Sanders. If you bring in, you can also draft as well, but let's just say in free agency, you bring in Richard Sherman and Golden Tate, and you lost Emmanuel Sanders and Janoris Jenkins. You improved your team when you were negative $100 million in cap.
Mike Loomis is a guy.
That's outrageous. That's outrageous. And they somehow afforded to franchise tag Marcus Williams. We all assumed that nobody was going to be able to get the franchise tag, so we were going to lose Marcus Williams and Trey Hendrickson. They kept Marcus Williams too, and they're going to extend him. It's like I don't understand how this is even possible, but it is. This guy, Mickey Loomis, is on another planet. To even come up with Taysom Hill's making $16 million this year, how can we fix that? Oh, let's extend him for $140 million. Who is thinking that? To put all those voidable years in there. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. The Saints, I don't know where they're going to finish because we don't know how good Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill is going to end up being, but I think a W off season.
I think it's a W.
That's a W.
All right, guys. So the next is going to be the Panthers. Okay. So Panthers have so much money in cap. They're sitting on $31 million in cap. Ooh. And they've actually done some good moves. I do like, I mean, they got David Moore signing a 2-year contract. You guys got Reddick signing for $8 million. So, I mean, Reddick alone, he was second in forced fumbles. He's got 6. He had 12 sacks. That's 4th. He's a beast. He's a beast. I'm sure you guys, as a Panthers fans, love that one. And you gave Taylor the franchise tag. So it's just a question of Teddy, because you guys gave away Carrot Samuel. So now DJ, and then you got Robbie. Is Teddy the guy? Like, it kind of goes back to the Saints. Like, they did so good at kind of just bringing up these quarterbacks. It looked so good because of the coaching, and then he got paid over in the Panthers, and then what? You guys, I don't know. And then you guys get rid of Mike Davis, I'm pretty sure, today to the Falcons. So there's losses and there's gains. I don't hate the Panthers right where they're at right now, but I feel like I don't know if Teddy's the guy either. That's just a question mark for me as well. I mean, what do you think, Spitz?
I don't know. I think they're kind of they had a good offseason, but they got to figure out that quarterback. They got to figure that out because Teddy Bridgewater,
check down king. He's a good man. He's a good game manager, right? Down. I mean, hand the ball off to McCaffrey. I mean, anybody can do that.
Everybody can do that.
That's wild. But I mean, I just think they're up and down right now. They've lost some, they've gained some, but I don't think they're a failure by any means. I don't think they're going to be bottom of the league or anything like that. I think as long as Teddy can prove to do what he did back in New Orleans, they're going to be okay. That's all Absolutely. I can say. Just we'll see. We'll see.
All right, now we have the Falcons. We're just in. You got that Matt Ryan contract, Julio. It's hard for them to maneuver that stuff. They signed Eric Harris. Signed Mike Davis today, which is nice. Get some running back depth. But listen, they lost a lot of close games too. They choked a lot of leads. This is a team that was competitive enough in games to win 9 or 10 games last year. They just didn't finish. So they have this weird aura around them, like they're just cursed from the Tom Brady comeback. And I'm wondering if that's just going to stick there until they get rid of Matt Ryan and those guys. But you know, the Falcons are a team that you just never know how they're going to do. Like I don't even know how to grade the Falcons, because like I said, they should have been like 10-6 last year. So it's like, are they good? I don't know. I can't tell, because they
and it seems like they're trying to change things. They got rid of the coach.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying new things. You're bringing Mike Davis in.
Yeah, like Matt Ryan is not garbage. Like he's not. It's just, you know, as much as I hate the Falcons, like Matt Ryan's a good quarterback.
Yeah, as much as we don't want to admit it, he did get the MVP.
He's still putting He's still putting up crazy yardage every season. It's just no consistency at all. I don't think they're better. I mean, obviously the Buccaneers are running away with the South, but maybe they're a playoff team. I really have no idea.
Big question mark for sure. Then we have the Buccaneers, Super Bowl champs. I think their main goal this season, offseason, and they've done this, is keep the squad together. And they've done that. You received the franchise tag. You gave it to Chris Godwin. You re-signed Rob for $8 million deal. You got Shaquille Barrett re-signed for another 4-year. And my question is how they do this. I mean, I think Tom Brady restructured. It's crazy how much Tom Brady is willing to help his team. He's done this all his entire career. He has helped his team stay together to continue to win championships. And people wonder, how has he got 7 rings? This is why. Mm-hmm. He's keeping Barrett. He's keeping Levante David. He's keeping, Kevin Minter. And I just want to shout out Levante David. Last year, he had 82 solo tackles. That's 12th in the league, and he had 3 forced fumbles. This defense is no joke.
Levante David and Devin White. Oh, my God. Like, Devin White single-handedly destroyed the Saints in their playoff game. Like, he was the entire... I felt like every pick, every fumble, every tackle was Devin White.
That and JJ, I would say.
Yeah.
Jason Giroux, Paul, yeah, JPP. I mean,
did
I say JJ? No, JPP.
Have they brought back Ndamukong Suh yet?
I mean, he hasn't left.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming everybody's willing to just stay together because they just know that as long as Tom Brady's in charge, I mean, hey, another Super Bowl can be coming.
I know they still got some work to do to bring back Antonio Brown, which I think will be a huge loss, actually, if they don't bring him back. But I know they're trying, because I think Antonio Brown's only going to get better next season. He still was kind of he slowly got back into it during the playoffs. But I know Tom Brady's pushing for Odell too. It's just like, please make it stop.
His recruiting is ridiculous.
It's out like, oh my God.
Like even last offseason, like what they grabbed Fournette.
Yeah.
They grabbed this guy, that guy, all over the place. That
Fournette's a guy that might leave depending on the money situation. He's talking to the Steelers and like some other teams, Seattle. But do you really leave the Bucs though? Do you leave?
No, I'm not.
I feel like the Buccaneers, like now that the second half of last season, they kind of just passed the offense off to Tom Brady, and they didn't lose a single game. I mean,
because this team was 7-5.
Like they were 7-5. They finished 11-5 and won the Super Bowl. So I just feel like there's legitimately, and we're about to get roasted in the comments. There's legit 17-0 potential with this roster.
I mean,
specifically, especially with the Saints.
As long as Tom Brady's calling and not the coach.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who knows what would have happened if Tom was able to call the plays the entire season.
Right.
We don't know.
And so it's like with the Saints potentially falling off a little bit and the Falcons and Panthers being an unknown, they should run away with the division. And our schedules in the NFC South aren't crazy difficult this year coming up. It's hard to go undefeated, but
This team is
Just something about
out of the
Tom Brady
question.
that something about it. I think he has the mindset. I think he's decided that he's going for 10.
I think
I
so
really
too.
do.
He's
That's
gonna
wild.
retire when he's like 60. He's gonna be insane. The longest quarterback, longest NFL player to even play the game. It's
That's
gonna be
wild.
wild.
I think he feels like he should have 10 because the teams that he lost to, he shouldn't have. He lost to the Giants twice when he shouldn't have, and he lost to the Eagles when he shouldn't have. So I think that's bothering him. I think he's going to go for 10, which is fucking insane and will never be beaten.
I mean, right now he's what? He's 70% in Super Bowls. Okay,
Yeah,
he's gotten 10. He's been to 10, won 7. He's 70%. Wild. Goat. Anyway, NFC North.
Packers.
Who you got?
Packers being quiet right now. Cap situation is not the best for them to make splashes. So they re-signed Aaron Jones, which questionable whether they needed to pay a running back that much. But he was one of the best, 4th in yards, 12th in touchdowns, 3rd in yards per carry. So, I mean, if you're going to pay a running back, you know what I'm saying? They got to be top 5, and he is. So I can't hate him for that. It's just a question of should they have spent their money there when they have A.J. Dillon, or should they have spent their money keeping their offensive line together? That's going to be the question moving forward. They re-signed Kevin King, which I'm sure all Packers fans are thrilled about, and nobody's as thrilled as Scotty Miller is. And that's about it, man. I think they're kind of just. I think they're going all in for the draft this season. I think they're not going to be able to make much of a splash in free agency with their cap situation. So they're kind of just going to re-sign Kevin King, re-sign Aaron Jones. They made some re-signings with Kennedy Clark and those guys before free agency even started. And I think they're just set with that. They went 13-3. They probably feel like they should have been in the Super Bowl. If they were in the Super Bowl, they would have won with the way the Chiefs' offensive line was. Any team from the NFC was going to be... The Chiefs had no chance to win that Super Bowl with that offensive line against any of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFC. So all those teams feel like they missed an opportunity. And so they're just going to run it back. And I will say this, though. I think Russell Wilson's a little bit farther along in the process, but I think he's in the same boat with Aaron Rodgers where, like, if I'm not getting it done with this team this year, I might want to move on. Because if you're Aaron Rodgers, it's completely unacceptable to retire with one. Much like Drew Brees, it's really you can't finish with one. You can't do it because that's gonna completely ruin your all-time ranking. You got to go get another one.
He's got to.
So it's going to be interesting if they can't get it done this year because everybody was kind of joking around like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is going to leave. Well, if they don't get it done this year, it's going to be interesting.
They're just going to have to nail this draft. It's plain and simple. I mean, you get rid of Lindsey. You re-sign Kevin King, who may or may not be the guy. I mean, that was one game, but it was a big game.
It was a big-ass game. Yeah, it was a big-ass game.
So it's just, you got to nail that's all there is.
They didn't need a wide receiver playmaker as badly this offseason as they did last year because some guys stepped up. So they just need to focus on the offensive line, make sure that's solid because Aaron Rodgers was kind of running for his life a little bit against the Buccaneers too. So, and that's the team you're going to have to play in the NFC Championship game. I can almost guarantee, like, there's the Saints are gone. Like, there's almost no other threat besides the Buccaneers right now, in my eyes.
It's definitely Packers for sure. All right, and then you have the meme team right now, the Bears.
Oh my God!
You get rid of Mitch, and you bring in Andy Dalton.
Their fan base went from thinking they were going to trade for Deshaun Watson to Russell Wilson putting the Bears on his list to free like Matt Stafford and all that stuff, and they got Andy Dalton.
I just know they tried really hard for Wilson. I know they did. They were harassing that agent.
Seattle's not ready. They're not ready yet.
But it's just Andy Dalton's the guy that you guys choose.
Yeah. If you want Russell Wilson, you got to call him next season. I think he's going to be on the move next season. But that's just me.
Does he start though? Does Andy start over? Nick Foles is still there, right? Correct.
Andy has to start. Nick Foles was horrendous for the Bears last year. The Bears might have won 10 games last year if Mitch Trubisky just played the whole season out.
I was like, why do you get rid of Mitch? I mean, I know he's not. I get it, Bears fans, but it's
I
just
think
like
it was just the relationship was between him and the coaching staff was kind of destroyed. So he probably
he
didn't
got
want to play
tired of
there
being
anymore.
benched and just
Yeah.
I get it, I get it. But Andy
If I'm
Dalton,
Mitch Trubisky, I'm out of here. I'm out. I'm like, fuck you guys. Just like Allen Robinson. No, the Bears are in trouble, man.
look, if I'm the Bears and if I'm Andy Dalton, you should have only one thing on your mind: is it to hand that ball off to Montgomery. That is it.
Yep.
Because you're not throwing it to Allen Robinson. I don't think Andy Dalton. You couldn't work with what you had over on the Cowboys.
No,
I just don't know the Bears.
he's not it.
And then Allen Robinson. I mean, you franchise a guy, you keep him on the team. He was 6th in receptions. He was 9th in yards.
He doesn't want to be there.
Free him.
Yeah,
Free
he doesn't want to
Robinson.
be there, man. I never like. I mean, at least you could do it. Is trade him. You don't have to let him walk in free agency, but you can't like. Come on, man.
I mean, I get it. They probably believe in themselves because they made a playoff run. I mean, they got beat by the Saints, and they probably think they have a shot if they just kind of tweak things. I mean, that
Yeah.
defense is still good. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and shit on the Bears completely. The defense is good. I mean, you go out and get Desmond Trufant, who's been quiet. I did like him. I just don't know where he's been for the past few years. But
Like they do that. They do that, but then the guys that are there want to leave. Like Akeem Hicks requested a trade, and so it's like
I
you're
think
you're like these guys coming into the Bears just don't seem to know what they're getting themselves into, and once they're there, they want to get out.
I don't know what to say about this team right now.
I feel bad. I feel bad for the Chicago fans. That's a diehard fan base over there.
Is it a front office problem? Is it a coaching problem? Is it a culture problem? Is it a whatever it is? Where would you even start if you're a Bears?
I don't know. I think this is. I mean, it's kind of unfair because they have Andy Dalton, but I think the coaching staff's going to be heavily evaluated this season.
I mean, I don't want to say they're about to go back into like a rebuild or anything like that
They might.
because you do have pieces.
Listen, they did this to themselves. Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes were on the draft board. You chose Mitch Trubisky. You put yourself here. So it is what it is.
Major bed you lay in it, I guess.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Who do you got?
We got the Lions. Lions are interesting because they traded Matt Stafford away. Sad times for the Lions fans. I know it had to be done. He's kind of wasting his career there. And, they're going into a full-on, you'd think they were going to a full-on rebuild being the Lions.
Seems like it.
Got to see what happens with Jared Goff. I mean, he still threw for 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns last season. I mean, he's not garbage, but
who's he going to throw to, though? He's got no Galladay. He's got no Marvin.
Exactly. They brought in Brashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams and Josh Hill. And I'm not sure about their new head coach either, the Saints tight end coach. They had all these options, and they brought him in.
The enemy?
Yeah, they could have had Bieniemy. They could have had, at the time, they could have had Robert Saleh before he signed with the. Like, there was so many options available, and they just went with the Saints tight end coach. And then he's over there talking about biting off kneecaps, and I'm concerned about the line. Like, I really am. I don't know. They traded for Michael Brockers. They re-signed Romeo. There's not much to be excited about. I'm sorry for the Lions. I really am. I feel bad for Jared Goff too. I think he's going to just look really shit this season.
Yeah, it's
because he looked average at best with, he had Brandon Cooks, he had Robert Woods. These guys all at one point. He had all these guys. He had Todd Gurley, and he was never more than like above average. And now he comes to this.
It's going to be awkward, too, because I know Brockers was over here talking trash about how it was an upgrade to go from Goff to Matthew Stafford. Now he's joining Goff in Detroit.
How does that... Bro, Michael Brockers got that phone call, and he was just like, bro, are you fucking serious right now?
That's awkward.
So
Goff's going to be like, bro, what the hell? Like, I thought we were boys. Oh, I guess not.
Bro, the Lions and the Rams just trading each other's players around, man.
Then we got the Vikings.
Man, fuck the Vikings, man.
I don't know. Big sideline touchdown. Skull. I don't know, guys. I mean, the Vikings, I like their rookie. I like the rookie a lot. Justin Jefferson, I think, is the real deal.
Stud.
And then you go out and get veteran Patrick Peterson. He has never left a team until this
That
year.
was really random.
Like, leaving the
That-
Cardinals, who I think is on the
Yeah.
come up, I believe. I mean, Cardinals been pretty busy as well. But
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson signed for a 1-year, $10 million deal. And he was third. He had
Wild.
3 interceptions. He wasn't, You got Nick Vigil. He used to be a thing, I think, on the Bengals. And then you got Dalvin Tomlinson signing a 2-year deal for $22 million. So, where do the Vikings go from here? They kind of had an okay season last year. I think they went like 8-8 or something like that.
They had some health issues, but regardless, that defense, well, I mean, out like 6 touchdowns to the one running back.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's
man.
rough.
I don't care who they're running. I don't care if it's Alvin Kamara. Should have had 7. Should have been 7.
I think that's where
My
Dalvin
God.
Tomlinson comes in. They're going to try to stop some of that, possibly.
Have to.
Kirk Cousins, I mean, you paid that man. I mean, I don't know if he's producing the way you guys want to. You paid him,
Yeah, he's doing okay. He's all right. He's not. I don't think he's losing that many games for the most part.
You lost Diggs last year. I mean, and then you bring in Justin Jefferson, who I think was a very good replacement. I think whoever decided to do that,
Almost
genius.
identical. Yeah. Because
So I'm not gonna sit here and trash him.
Stephon Diggs was the best wide receiver, arguably, in the NFL this season. But Justin Jefferson also had 1,500 yards or
It was
whatever. So
awesome.
who cares?
Good replacement. And then you lose Kyle Rudolph, though. So it's like, what do you do at tight end? I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably been a reliable spot for them. Now that's one less weapon for Cousins. So it's just like I don't know how to rank the Vikings, just because like it's kind of like a lot of up and downs here. And I mean, I like some of the defensive signings, but I mean, all on offense, I just don't know. Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I just don't know. That defense, not looking. I mean, I don't know. They're working. I guess they're working on it. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Outlook on the NFC North is that the Packers have a cakewalk to the division title. That's
Yeah.
all I have to say.
That's really it. There's no other
That
threat.
division is butt
Vikings
cheeks.
is the closest one to a threat.
Yeah, exactly. Now we move to the West, which hands down most competitive division on the NFC side. Listen, the 49ers had the most injuries I think I've ever seen on one team last season. I mean, it was just so unfortunate.
Everybody almost.
By the end of the season, they had third strings playing like every position. It was unbelievable. So, their starters are coming back. I mean, they've lost guys here and there, Richard Sherman, but like this team was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they went like 13-3 or 14-2 or whatever their record was. With Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, which means they can still, he can manage the game well enough. They re-signed Kyle Juszczyk. They freaking won the Trent Williams sweepstakes, which is massive. That was arguably the best free agent on the market this season. They got him.
Paid him $1 more
Yeah.
to make him the highest paid offensive lineman, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure, in history. And
Yeah.
funny.
They signed Alex Mack as well, so they're showing up the offensive line. They signed Emmanuel Mosley to kind of, I'm sure, help up with assuming Richard Sherman leaves. And they keep Jason Verrett. So, listen, like I said, that team was in the Super Bowl. They came back this season. The entire roster got injured, basically. And they got some, last year, because of all the injuries, Brandon Ayuk got a chance to show what he can do, and he's pretty good. So, I don't know. They're a good team. I like this division is insane. I mean, I don't really even know where to rank them because they're coming back with all these injuries now, but just because they had a really bad season last year, expect them to be right back towards the top.
Yeah.
This
Don't
time
sleep
around.
on the 49ers. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on them. And then you have the Rams, where if you do sleep, you're going to. Yeah.
You know what? I lied earlier. I said the Buccaneers' only threat was the Packers. I lied. The Rams.
Yeah. The Rams are.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford, okay? You acquired him in a trade from the Lions.
That's all they needed. All they needed on that team was a good quarterback.
Matthew Stafford has to be the most underrated quarterback in history, or at least now.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah.
guy, even last year, which was a down year for him, by the way, 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and he had a 68.4 QBR. Okay? And then you go ahead and side Roadrunner, Djax, so you're giving them more offensive weapons for Stafford. So, I mean, this team is scary looking.
Woods.
Woods, Cup. You got and then you got on defense. You still got Aaron Donald. You got Leonard Floyd, who signed a 4-year, $64 million contract.
Yeah, the best defense in the NFL, hands down. Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, I mean, I know they lost Josh Johnson, but I don't think that's a major. I think they have some depth there. So
we lost Troy Hill too, but whatever.
I still think they're going to be right up there with the NFC Championship games. Like
they have Cam Akers, who was the only player that could do anything in the Packers game on offense.
No, the problem is that all in golf, or what? Why was Akers the only person doing anything on offense? That's my concern with the Rams. Like you have the
Jared Alexander had just a clamp season on Woods, and it was just Goff couldn't find anybody. He didn't have much time in the pocket either, to be fair.
An injured Donald is still better than half the tackles out there.
Yeah. Jared Goff only had 3 fucking fingers. I still can't even fathom how Seattle lost to him in the first place. But that's another story for another day.
It's wild. But, the Rams are scary. I mean, this is definitely the best division in the NFC. Don't sleep on the 49ers, and definitely don't sleep on the Rams.
Speaking of sleeping, Arizona has become like the retirement destination of dreams over here. I mean, good Lord. They bring in J.J. Watt out of absolutely nowhere. They bring in J.J. Watt, by the way. Like I didn't even know the Cardinals were on the radar.
It's such a weird spot for him to go.
It is so strange.
People were talking about him going to the Steelers to be with his brothers. And then just,
or the Packers,
just any other places. Packers?
Yeah.
It's weird, but hey,
it's
good
weird
for the Cardinals.
They bring in AJ Green. Also weird. I'm wondering if Larry Fitzgerald's going to play another season or not. That's still up in the air. I hope so. I can't take any more retirements. I can't do it. It's getting out of hand. They traded for Rodney Hudson. And they signed Matt Prater to kick instead of Zane Gonzalez. I mean, listen, the Cardinals were 8-8 last season, but they had kind of a cupcake schedule. If you look at it, 8-8 is kind of bad for that schedule they had. And it should have been 6-10. They won in overtime against Seattle. That could have been easily a loss, and they had a Hail Mary against the Bills. So realistically, they could have just as easily been 6-10 with an easy schedule. So that team was teetering potentially on being a little bit overrated last season. So it would be interesting to see the development from Kyler Murray. And with these weapons, I mean, it's not just DeAndre Hopkins now. Now you got Kirk and you got AJ Green. So
it's gonna be crazy. I mean, Cardinals.
I don't know. This is the weakest team, I think, out of the 4. But this is still a team that I could see winning 10 games. So that's why the division is so outrageous.
It's gonna be like the AFC North. Like even your worst team is probably gonna still win 8 games at least.
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough. And then we have the Seahawks, who seem to be in the playoffs every single year, no matter what happens.
They just win 10 games no matter what. It's like a guarantee.
Like they could have the best start in the world, lose a couple, but they won so many games early on that they can afford to lose enough to still be in the playoffs. It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, you re-signed Chris Carson. I mean, he had one of the best averages. He was 15th. I mean, not a whole lot has been done. I mean, Gerald Everett, he signed in a 1-year deal. Acquired a trade with the Raiders for Gabe Jackson. Boone Ford is re-signing. So I mean, it seems like you're keeping the boys, and you're trying to. I mean, the only thing that I'm kind of nervous about the Seahawks is Shaquille Griffin. You lost that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
the secondary was already suspect.
Yeah. So it's like, is that a concern? I mean, obviously.
And Richard Sherman already said no to a return. So
do you draft a corner? I mean, what do you do if you're the Seahawks?
I think so. I think you have to.
But I still, even with that loss, I still think they're at least an 8-win team. At least. They're more than 500.
Russell Wilson is an MVP for the first 6 games, so they'll be at least 5-1.
It always happens.
Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the NFL for half a year, and then he just disappears.
Yeah, Pete Carroll has kept his team good. Ever since Pete Carroll became coach, I feel like they've just been something you cannot count out ever at any point in the season.
Yep. Tell you what, if that
Yeah.
team misses the playoffs, Russell Wilson's out of there. So that'll be very interesting. If they miss the playoffs, he's guaranteed out of there because he gave them suggestions to make the team better, and they all said no. And so if they now go and miss the playoffs, he's going to be like, "Told you so." Now I'm out. So we'll see.
We will
Very
see.
possible.
Still a good team though. At the end of the
Really
day,
good team. All right, dude. Is that all the teams?
I think we covered every single
Let's
team.
go. That's not a bad time at all. Listen, guys, this was a lot of shit. There's going to be a lot less stuff to cover in the rest of our podcast going forward. This is going to be weekly. We just wanted to catch up on this one. And then from here on, we'll just talk about whatever comes up.
Yeah, I
Closer
mean,
it gets.
forgive us if we left anybody out significant. I mean, we did try to cram about 32 teams in about an hour and 45 minutes. So,
About 500 transactions.
yeah, so I mean, if we've missed anybody, just let us know in the comments below. We're probably going to look at those. And
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Follow our Twitters down below, right here under our face. You guys are more than welcome to send in questions or subjects that you want us to talk
Recommendations.
about on Twitter. Yep.
This is our first time doing the
And-
show. So, I mean, this is seriously just like a first time just winging it type of deal. So, I mean, if you guys have your
Yeah.
recommendations, let us know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, like we said in the beginning, first of all, if you are listening to me as I'm talking right now, go put a W in the comment section. If you stayed here for an hour and however long this ends up being, and you listen to the whole thing, you're a goat, and I want to know who you are. But yeah, man, hit the like button. We need to see the response. You know what I'm saying? We don't really care how many views this gets. We just need to know if the people watching it like it. So we need to see you guys smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to both channels. Jeff's link's in the description of this video because the next episode is going to be on his channel. So if you enjoyed this, you don't want to miss the next one because you're going to fall behind. So support both of us. And I guess that's it. I guess we'll just see you
That's
guys
it.
next week.
All right, guys.
This
Peace
was
out,
fun.
guys.
Yep. Peace out.